opening thoughts about how things are going so far?
Yeah, the guys are working really hard. You know, I think as a coach, you get a chance to watch practice. I guess we're 10 in, and are you practicing the right way? Are you practicing with intention? Are you practice with energy and physicality? And that's all been there. So if you can repeat that over the course of time, you feel like you're going to get guys better and better and better. So that's what kind of stands out to me the most.
What about the process of coming back? Obviously, with Jonathan being out and Pat coming in, how that worked out with you guys and just being back.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be back, and my family and I love being here. I think when obviously everything happened, and it's kind of a whirlwind of a few days, and coach comes in and he brings some people. He's talking to people, and we talked probably on 3 different occasions, and every time we talked, I thought it went really well. From the beginning, I was very adamant that I wanted to stay. You can win here. We will win here. We will play great defense here. It's going to be something that it's going to be exciting to be a part of. And so to have the opportunity to come back and work for Coach Fitz, who I have tremendous respect for. Obviously we competed against each other in the league, had tremendous respect for what he did at Northwestern. And, as a coach, as you kind of go through things, and you get up, this is year 25 for me. There were some opportunities for me at some other spots in the conference, and I told Coach, like, if you want me back, this is where I want to be. And so because I see it, I feel it, love being a part of this place, and my kids do too. And my wife doesn't like moving, that's for sure. So
Nobody does.
Do you notice a difference with a defensive coach like Pat? I mean, being a former linebacker, like, is there a difference in approach or anything you've noticed?
He loves football, and every coach I've been around loves football. But it surprisingly, since my first job, this is the first defensive head coach that I've worked for. And so I think he brings an intensity and an energy, but he does a really good job of being balanced in terms of he's bringing energy to the offense, he's bringing energy to the defense. He's a head coach. Yeah, his background was on defense. Yeah, he's always going to err on physicality and toughness, and we love all that. But I think he does a really good job of splitting his time between both the offense and the defense. So what I think happens is he kind of brings that mentality to both sides of the ball. I think, which is kind of a cool thing.
With Max Fuller joining the staff and being a co-DC, what went into the decision to bring him along, and what has he brought so far?
He's brought energy. He's brought enthusiasm. He brings a lineage. He understands what it means to be a Spartan, not only him, but his family. So it's been awesome. Yeah, I mean, Coach Fitz and I talked about it. He said that he preferred his coordinators to walk around, and so we talked to Coach Bola, and conversations went really well, and he made it clear he wanted to be here, and we wanted to have him here, and it was awesome to get him here. So
I've noticed you roaming around a little bit more hands-on and watching different positions, whereas in the past you might have been more focused on linebackers and so forth. How's that been for you? Is that new, or how do you like that?
It's number one, it's new. I hadn't done that before in my career. So sometimes you get a little itchy. I've been brought in as a guest lecturer in the meetings during the week, which I always appreciate. But I think here's what it does. It allows me to be attached to all the positions and develop closer relationships with all the positions, because basically I'll switch from meeting room each day. I'll be in different meetings. I bounce around during practice. It allows me to develop stronger relationships, like I said, with the players. But also, I think it allows me to quality control to make sure that all the verbiage and all the language is we're all on the same page. I think where staffs and or teams, any organization, when things aren't being said the same way or the right way or the way that we're all on the same page, that's where little breakdowns happen. And so having that opportunity to get around and then being the why guy, when I jump in a meeting, I can add context to the why. Like, why is this way? Why is this call? Why do we do it? I can say, hey, in 2012, this happened in this game, and this is why we do it this way. And the other coaches obviously don't have the context that I do. So I think having the ability to walk around, having the ability to go into different meetings, I've really enjoyed. So I think it's something that's going to be very beneficial for the defense.
What's it been like for you, Joe? Like, where you're back, and you had some continuity from last year, but then there's so many new guys as well. Like, does it feel like there's a lot of continuity? Do you feel like you're kind of starting over? Where do you sort of see yourself in that?
Yeah, I mean, there is some continuity. There's some people back that were with the staff. I think Coach Fitz does a great job of, hey, this is what I want, and these are the expectations. And I think that's what you want from the head coach. And when you're an assistant, you appreciate that. And if you know where you stand and what the expectations are, here we go, let's go to work. I think with the continuity to the question about walking around, having the ability to bounce around from spot to spot helps create that. And it helps in the meeting room, it helps out on the field. So I think it's been very smooth.
When you say the why guy, is this a curious group of guys? Do they ask a lot of those questions?
Yeah, we want why players. Like, you know, Mike Richard, like, you know, when we were recruiting him, he was like, am I allowed to ask why? I said, if you don't, I'm going to be upset with you. Like, I think when people get upset about someone asking the why, it's because it's their ego, because they're not real confident on what the actual why is, and they feel like they're getting questioned. I want the guys to understand the why, because if they know the why, they can do their job better. So, you know, being able to tie it together, not only with the players, with the staff. You have a new coach who hasn't been in this system, and here's the scheme, here's what they're supposed to do, but why is it that case? And so, you know, I think the more we can do that, not only for the players, but for the coaches, it kind of connects the group. Everyone understands their job. And when you understand your job and how important it is, I think it allows you to execute it better. So.
I think last year you said after you went down to the sideline, you weren't going to go back to the booth. Is that still the plan, or is it
Yeah, I'll be on the sideline. It was more fun. And I think it's good to look the guys in the eyes. Back in the day when you didn't have the iPad, but we'll be down.
With you, Max, and Fitz, are you guys going to get a get back coach with just the intensity of that group? It's a lot of
You tell me.
a lot of energy.
What do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think we'll need a get back coach. We always need a get back coach, but I think with that group we'll need it. But you know, Coach Adams as well,
Yeah.
like, you know, Coach Debo, like we got a juice group now, like, and that's by design. So.
Did you see, I mean, last year when you went down to the sidelines, how many times have you done that in your career in the middle of a season before that point? And have you ever done it?
No.
Did you see an immediate reaction? Like, could you tell there was a different response to you when you were there?
Yes. You know, we practice it during the week, right? And what I mean by that is, like, we made the decision we were going to do it. So then we practice it during the week. So when we did a team period, they would come up and they would start on me. And when we would end the team period, they would come finish on me. I just felt like, and I've said it before, but like, yeah, there's the energy part of it. I got it. There's the adjustment part of it. I got it. But I think there was a little bit of like, I've said it, that, you know, you come off, you got these benches, you got these roofs over the top, and everyone kind of sits in their spot and they sit by themselves and they got their iPads. And it's like, you know, your kids, if you have young kids, they come in, they sit down there at the iPad, and like, there's no connection. Like, we're going to play defense. We got to be connected. And so I think by starting as a group, ending as a group, and then me being able to kind of roam up and down the benches and just kind of connect the group, like, it creates more accountability too. Because it's one thing when your position coach is saying something to you, hey, I need to get this done. It's another thing if I come up to you and say, hey, we're counting on you. Like, these guys over here are counting on you. We got to get this done. Okay, gotcha, coach. And so, yeah, I kind of felt it, and we're going to kind of move forward with that. But I also feel like, as the previous question, we got a group of defensive coaches, a head coach, who are going to bring the energy and the enthusiasm. And there's one thing to have energy and enthusiasm, but they're also going to be detail, and there's going to be execution. And they're a smart group too, so I'm excited to work with them.
By having you come back and be retained, I'm wondering, does that send a message to the guys that you're coaching that we were doing something right?
I think so. You know, I think, you know, Coach Fitz has been around a long time. You know, I think it was 17 years in the league. And I think he has a vision of how he wants a team to play. And so, you know, I was excited and honored that he asked me to come back. And I think there was a group of guys here that wanted to be here. I think there's a group of guys here that want to get this place back to where they know and where it should be. And I think it was a little bit of a reinforcement and a vote of confidence for some of those guys, that, hey, some of the things you were doing, we got to be better. Okay, that's without doubt. But hey, we're on the right track. Let's double down and let's go. So I think so.
Getting Jordan back, what was that process like on board, and was it what does he mean to sort of that continuity when you have some other pieces coming?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple layers to Jordan. One, he's a great player, right? Two, he and I have a very close relationship. I really appreciate him and how hard he plays. And the thing I really love about him is, you know, in this era, you know, in 2026, like Jordan just wants to play well. He wants to win, and he wants to get coached. And he's not looking for comfort. You know, some people go find people who tell them what they want to hear. Other people find people who give them honest feedback. Honest feedback is what allows you to grow. And Jordan's always been that way from the very beginning, because when I first got here and sat down with him, he was deciding whether he was going to stay or not. And I can remember, and he shared it, like I came in with a list of things he needs to get better at. You know, this wasn't like, hey, you're the greatest thing, please come back. It was like, hey, this is what you need to do to get to where you want to go. And he's a guy that resonates with that. And I like those type of people, because if you get a group of a bunch of people like that, always wanting to get better, always wanting to get honest feedback, and I want honest feedback from him. He's not afraid to give me some honest feedback too. And so, yeah, I love coaching him. I care about him. He's one of our leaders. He's going to be, you know, a really good player for us and a really good leader.
With the returning players that are back, we've seen a lot of them play like Jordan. Are there some others that we haven't seen play as much that you've noticed have taken some steps? Who are some guys below the surface?
You're talking returning players?
Yeah, let's talk about them first, then we can talk some.
Yeah, I think Derek Simmons, you know, up front, you know, I thought had a really good, you know, freshman year. I think he's got a high upside. Mike Sean Beeler is a guy, same way. Like, he dealt with some injuries last season, and I've been very pleased with what I've seen out of him. And, you know, I think he's a guy that adds some athleticism and some twitch. Brady Pretzloff, who had his season kind of cut short a little bit last year, has been doing some really good things. So those are just, you know, three guys off the top of my head that are back that I've seen some real growth out of.
As far as transfers goes, any of those guys catch your eye?
Yeah, we got some good ones. You know, Michael Richard is a guy that's put in some really good work, and he's a really good football player. Devin Vaught, you know, former Maine Black Bear, you know, early in my career I was there, and the head coach played for me. And, you know, when we talked to him, I said, what do you think of him? He just said, yeah, you want him. He's everything you want, and he's been that. So he's been great. And there's just been a bunch of guys, you know, up front. You know, Kenny Soares, he just practices the right way. You know, Coach Fitz had a connection with him. Obviously, he started his career at Northwestern, and he's been everything that we ask. He's been a leader. He's playing hard. So those are three guys that have kind of done some good things for us.
Soares a stand-up edge for you? Or?
Oh, we're using him in multiple spots.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it been like having Winston around as a guy you coached, I believe? Right?
Yeah.
Now, working for you, is this the first time you've ever had that dynamic?
No, he worked for me at Minnesota.
Oh, that's right.
So it's been awesome. Like, I'm now of the age, I know none of you would guess it, but I got, you know, some players that have coached or played for me, and they're now back coaching. Guys that were young coaches, maybe interns, GAs, and now they're back. It's just awesome, because like there's something to be said for relationships, right? And so, like, I love Debo. You know, like when I coached him, I knew he wanted to be a coach. And you know, it was kind of a situation where, like, when this NFL thing ends, let us know and we'll get going with your life's work. Because, you know, being honest, he wasn't going to be an NFL player. You know, but he's a consummate overachiever, right? He had no business. Like, the head coach wanted him replaced every year. Like, we got to find someone better than him. Okay, but I said, Coach, we're never going to get someone to beat him out, because he just plays harder than everyone else. Okay, and so now he just kind of takes that same mentality and plugs it into a coach. Okay, so he's coaching his butt off, and he understands the game. He understands how we do things. So it's been awesome. I really appreciate having guys that you've had relationships and know, because I think it just brings everyone together.
What are some of the biggest differences we noticed about the defense last year to this year, or similarities?
Yeah, I'm not into comparing this year to last year. Like, this group's its own group. I learned that a long time ago. Like, you get a group of people together and you get them working, and you see what happens, and you get them as good as you can get them. And you know, obviously there's some returning players who've made some improvements. We got a bunch of new players. We got a bunch of new coaches. We got a new culture. So, you know, yeah, I'm not. This group's working. So.
Do you want me to say sort of where you see like some things you like with this group and where you really got to tighten some things up going into fall camp? Or?
Yeah, it's still early. Like, the thing I like is how they practice. The thing I like is how physical they are. The thing I like is how they run to the ball. Like, I know this. If they run to the ball, we got a chance. And they run to the ball. Okay? They run to the ball. You know, because I'll ask recruits, you know, what do you think? These recruits have been 3, 4, 5, 6 practices. How do we compare in terms of just running to the ball? They don't know about scheme. They don't know about anything. And I constantly get feedback, man, you guys run to the ball. You're the best we've seen. So that's something to hang our hat on. Now, you got to add the execution. You got to add the toughness. You got to add the fundamentals and all that. But I've been very pleased with how they run to the ball.
The, I know you focused only on this year, but I'm wondering, is there value in going from being seen as sort of the weakness of last year's team at the beginning of the year to maybe the strength of it by the end, the growth within the season, that these guys who are back saw that? And
Yeah. So here's the deal, right? When you have things not go your way, the leader determines whether it spirals or you climb and grow, right? And so I think the guys that were here trust that we do things the right way. It's easy to feel like things are being done the right way on the honeymoon stage. It's easy to feel like things are being done the right way when things are going well, okay? I've never felt like that's the litmus test on someone's ability. What the litmus test on someone's ability is when things don't go your way. How do you handle that? How do you respond? How do you lead? How do you play? How do you practice? And so I think the guys that were through some of the muck last year, let's call it that, and kind of came out the other side, it gives them a belief in if we do things the right way, we will get better and we will be able to get where we want to go. And they know there's a consistency to the approach. Good, bad, or indifferent, there's a consistency to the approach. Now, it always needs to change and there needs to be an ebb and flow into it. But I've been around some people that when things are great, they're great. And when things aren't great, all hell's breaking loose. Well, I know this. If all hell's breaking loose when things aren't going great, no one's going to keep their poise. No one's going to keep their composure. No one's going to trust. No one's going to bond. No one's going to come together, and you're not going to be able to get better. So,
Having Mackay back.
awesome.
What does that mean?
He's
What
a
do you
good
like
player,
about him?
isn't he?
Is that so?
Yeah, he's a really good player. And, you know, he really truly played in 2 games last year, and I thought he played really well in both those games. And again, that's a guy who kind of bounced around. He could have very easily left. I think he appreciates this place. He appreciates Michigan State. He appreciates what he's seen from Coach Fitz and the things that he's done in his previous career. I think he appreciates how we did some things on defense, and I'm glad he's back because I think he's a hell of a player.
If you got him, Jordan, and Worm, sort of as a guy at each level that's played a lot,
Sure.
how much does that help when you're trying to get more pieces?
Well, when I was a
of-
young coach, like my defensive coordinator, the head coach, but also the defensive coordinator, said, "Look, it's got to start up the middle, right? If we can be very good at the defensive tackle and our Mike linebacker and at safety, we got a chance." And so now it's a little more complicated than that, obviously. But what I would say is, yes, to have a guy up the middle at each level who's experienced, who's played, who's kind of got some scars and had some success, you know, it's a good thing.
In the new age of college football and coaching and so forth, players come and go.
Yeah.
How tough is it to, and how disappointing was it, and how much of a challenge is it to see some of the players that moved on? I'm sure some, maybe, I don't want to speak for you, but maybe you didn't see, if the staff didn't see the future for some of them, but there might have been some that you wanted to keep. How difficult is that to transition, almost like, players coming?
Yeah, I think it's disappointing at times, right? Because you get relationships. If you don't get relationships with the players, you don't care. It's just like, okay, who cares? Well, we do, and I value that. So if a guy happens to leave that you really appreciate, yeah, it's tough. But I would say it's like life. Like, you're going to have relationships in everything that you do, and people are going to come and go. You stay in touch when you can. You know, sometimes someone leaves and you're not able to have contact with them again. But at the end of the day, I think that's just part of life, right? But I also think that, you know, then you get new guys in and you get to go recruit them and you bring them in and then you start to develop a relationship with those guys. And, you know, the cool thing is, like, once those guys decide to come here, like, we just coach them. You know, I mentioned my old defensive coordinator. He was up here 3 weeks ago. He's, I think, 73, 72. And he said, "Hey, is this thing way different than when you first started out?" I said, "No." I said, once they're here, we coach them the same way we always coached them. And so there's going to be a relationship. We want them to get better as men and not just as football players. And because here's the deal. When they feel like you care and when they feel like that you're adding value to their life, they will stay more. If they feel like there's no relationship and they feel like they're not gaining anything, they're going to leave. I would argue that's why Coach Izzo does such a great job retaining, even though he's not always Mr. Sunshine and Rainbows. So, and I would consider myself not always Mr. Sunshine and Rainbows either. So,
What can you tell us about
Last one
Caleb?
for Coach, real quick.
I think we're gonna talk to Caleb today. What can you tell us about him and what attracted you guys to him?
he's awesome.
How he fits and everything.
Like, I mean, he's got starts in the league. He's got production in the league. Okay, he can run. And just talking to him, he's a great kid. He had a connection and he had a relationship with Sam Edwards. And so the cool thing was, you know, Sam gave him the stamp of approval to me. And Sam's a guy that's earned my trust. So if Sam gives him a stamp of approval, it's pretty cool. The other thing that was kind of cool about him is once we got him here and loved him and he decided he wanted to come here, his former position coach at a previous stop, unsolicited, hit me up and was like, "You got a good one." He was like, "He's tough. He's about the right things. You can coach him, and he's a great human being." And I would concur after 10 practices and having him here since January.
Did you succeed in getting Sam into coaching, or still working on that?
You know, we're kind of fighting his mom and dad. They want him to be a lawyer, so we'll see. Maybe he'll be like, who was he just passed away, the pirate,
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach. He's got a law degree, so we can go get Sam his law degree and then get him to his true calling.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks
all
a
right,
lot.
thank you.
Thank you.